Hello Revolution students, and welcome back to another video on the Chinese Revolution area of study 2. In this video I am going to focus on social improvements that occurred as a consequence of the CCP's rule in China after 1949, and perhaps the most significant of these social improvements was the status of women in Chinese society and how that was improved as a consequence of the marriage law and the Constitution of 1954. So that's what we're going to look at, so let's get into it. So the marriage law was passed in May 1950. It was the first piece of major legislation passed by the People's Republic of China. And I do remind you that Mao Zedong, even before he became a communist, was writing a lot about the rights of women and the plight of women in China. So it was something that he wanted to improve once he got into power. And he certainly did with this marriage law, and the CCP certainly did with this marriage law. So the marriage law gave women the same legal rights as men, and it also outlawed practices such as foot binding, polygamy, which is being married to multiple partners, for example, a husband having 2 or 3 or more wives, child marriages, and buying brides. All these practices, which had been occurring in China for centuries, it outlawed, in theory anyway. The other major achievement was that in the Constitution itself, it enshrined the equal rights of women, and the Constitution of the PRC, you can see there, was passed in 1954. And it's particularly in these 2 articles which I've put up there for you, where these rights are enshrined, and I'll just go through them now. So Article 86 states that all citizens of the People's Republic of China who have reached the age of 18 have the right to vote and stand for election, irrespective of their nationality, race, sex, occupation, social origin, religious belief, education, property status, or length of residence. Women have, and this is a key point here, women have equal rights with men to vote and stand for election, as well as you can see previously up there where it refers to sex. So all people have the same rights, regardless of whether they are male or female, in the Constitution. Article 96 goes on to state that women in the People's Republic of China enjoy equal rights with men in all spheres of political, economic, cultural, social, and family life. The state protects marriage, the family, and the mother and child. And you can see here, this poster here on the side is of a female worker participating in the industrialisation of the nation in 1954, so that's during the first 5-year plan. Okay, so what were the consequences of the enshrinement of these legal rights? Did it change things in China? Well, perhaps in some ways for women in the cities. In the rural areas, though, in the countryside, there was still a lot of improvement that needed to go on. So despite these positive reforms, however, women still performed the majority of household duties and practices such as female infanticide continued in some rural areas during the period that we are studying. It was even occurring even as late as the 1990s in parts of Western China and so forth. This practice of female infanticide, which is the killing of female babies. All right, let us now have a look at a couple of historical interpretations about the marriage law and the rights of women in China. So the first one you can see there is from Craig Dietrich. And I've taken this historical interpretation straight from Tom Ryan's China Rising. And Tom wrote from Craig, China's women had risen to the status of second-class citizens. So even with the marriage law, even with what was stipulated within the Constitution, from Craig Dietrich's perspective, women still were not considered the equal of men. They were still only second-class citizens in the People's Republic of China. Historical interpretation too, and this is from Jonathan Femby. For all the promises of equality, women went on getting the less paid jobs and were still expected to look after the household, queuing for food and necessities. The Shanghai Party secretary excluded female homemakers from the ranks of productive people. Divorcees could well find themselves cut off from any family support system. We're talking about wives there who got divorced from their husbands. Modern contraceptive methods were rare, in keeping with the chairman's belief that a rising population was a source of national strength. In a series of reports in 1951, the People's Daily highlighted continuing family violence and abuse against women, some of whom did away with themselves in individual or group suicides. In 1952, a quarter of all criminal cases involved rape. So, despite the marriage law, despite the Constitution, the rights of women still had a long way to go to improve in order to make them the equal of men in Chinese society at that time. So, that is our video on social improvements in China, in particular the marriage law and the rights of women that were enshrined in the Constitution. I hope you found this video useful for your study of China Area of Study 2, the Chinese Revolution, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.